question came up regarding organizing scripts and song files at a single event. So I've set up this hypothetical big game scenario showing one way we might be able to organize and keep track of our scripts and our songs during the event. So this hypothetical big game event involves 3 firing positions: left with module 1, center with module 2 and 3, and right with module 4. The 448 queue modules gives us a total of 192 queues for this event. Now in this scenario we have 3 scripted songs that we're going to fire during this event at different times. And so I've created this table here to help keep track of the different songs and scripts. And I've labeled the file names to hopefully allow us to easily keep the script and the songs coordinated. The other thing I've done is made note of the duration of the songs, the events in the scripts, and which modules and rails are coordinated with that script. So here in the computer you can see under the file Big Game, I have 3 songs, 3 MP3 files, Song 1, Song 2, and Song 3. Now these are just simple royalty-free clips that I pulled off the internet for this example. For each of these songs, within Audacity, I added a couple seconds of silent lead up, and then I loaded these songs into a scripting software. So I used PyroMusical to create a quick script here for this theoretical example. I loaded up the song file here, which you can see in the waveform, with a couple second lead up. And I had a total of 36 cues here for this first song. Now I kept track here of these cues, and on module 1 I used all 12 cues on rail 1, and on module 2 I used all 12 cues of rail 1, and on module 4 I used all 12 cues of rail 1. And I kept track of that here in this table. So I had Big Game Script 1 is this the script, Big Game Song 1 dubstep, the MP3 file. It's 35 seconds long, and I had 36 events, and that was across module 1, 2, and 3, those first rails, all 12 cues. Now I did the same thing for the second song, which is Going Higher. Again, it had a couple second lead up. And on this one here, this is across the same modules. So on this song here, it starts with rail 2, and I used rail 2 and rail 3 up to cue 11 on rail 3 on ID 1. On ID 2, I used rail 2 and rail 3, but only 4 cues on rail 3. And on ID 4, I used rails 2 and rails 3 all the way up to cue 11. And I kept track of that here. So I had a total of 62 cues, and I was using rail 2 and rail 3. And if we look at the third song, Punky, here, I had a total of 60 cues spread out here across this waveform. On all of these, I have a couple second lead up, and I hit an igniter from each one of the modules 1 second into the queue, just as a quick check. If we look at the organizer here for the rails and the racks, here I started with rail 4 on the left and the right, and also on the center. And then we have another module, module 3, in the center as well, that's only used on this third script. And I used rails 1, 2, and 2 cues on rails 3. And I kept track of that here, which rails I used and which modules. So now that we have the 3 script files and the 3 song files all organized in a folder and uniquely identified as both script and song 1, 2, and 3, we're going to connect our USB device to the computer. In this case, I am using a very inexpensive Kindle Fire, and we are going to create a folder, or actually what we can do is just copy our big game file over to the Kindle Fire. And now here on the internal storage of the Kindle Fire, I've got a folder here that has all of the CSV files for the script and the MP3 files for the audio files for the big game. And now what we'll do is disconnect the Kindle Fire from the computer and set this up with the remote in the modules, showing how we can control this by using this matrix and keeping track of our scripts and our songs as we go through this theoretical big game. Okay, here we have our simulated setup. And right now we've got the FTKontrol application. This is the Kindle Fire that I loaded those files into. I've got the Kindle Fire connected with an on-the-go cable to the USB cable that is connected into the FTM99S remote. We'll start this up here. We'll allow it to connect. We're going to put this in network mode. We're going to set this to module 1, to module 2, module 3, and module 4. Okay, we have 4 slaves connected. Now we don't have any scripts loaded, but what we're going to do now is with the FTKontrol application, we're going to load the script. We'll do this through the ES File Explorer. And then we will drill down to the big game file. And now we're going to load our first script. And I have big game script 1 CSV file. I'm going to load that into all modules under this normal way. Now if we look at our little matrix here, script 1 had 36 events. I can see right here I've got 36 events. I can also see here I've got 36 events that loaded. Now right now it's just loaded into the FTKontrol application. We're going to also load the correlated music file. So we're going to load music. And again we'll use the ES File Explorer to drill down to our big game folder. And now I'm going to load big game song 1. And that's why it's convenient to have the file names organized, both script 1 and song 1. And I can see that that's loaded here. Now I'm going to make sure that I've got the volume up on this device here, and I have it plugged into this speaker here. Now we are going to send this script to the remote into the modules. So now that we're in test mode, we'll go script upload, and it says it's loading 36 events. Now I can see here on the remote it shows 36 events and 3 modules. And again, that matches up with what I had on my matrix. I had 36 events and across 3 modules. Module 1, 2, and 4, all on rail 1. And I could check that by going through the screens here, the modules. Now it's going to show me errors here because I don't have any igniters plugged into these rails. But it's showing me I've got V's here for events in the program on Module 1, Rail 1, Module 2, Rail 1. I don't have any events loaded on Module 3. I've got only zeros here. And then on module 4, I've got rail 1 loaded, and that lines up with the matrix. So I know I have the right script loaded in for song 1. So now, either with the remote or the FTKontrol application, we do a long hold and go into ARM, and then hit play. Turn this down here, but I've got just a few of the rails hooked up here. I don't have all of the rails. I've just got rail 1 and 2 connected, but I can see the LEDs lighting up with the cues. It's doing a countdown here. We're at 28 seconds, 29. All right, and so that's the end of the script. It fired all 36 of those. So now we can take this and go back to test. Now once we're back into test, we can unload or erase the script. And it's erased the script from all the modules in the remote. And now we can load the second script. So we'll go load script. Go through the ES File Explorer again to the big game, and we're going to load script 2 across all modules. And we're going to load song 2 to load music, ES File Explorer to our big game folder, and now we're going to load song 2. Now I can see song 2 is loaded up here, going higher. It says big game song 2, going higher MP3. That matches with what we have on our matrix here. It says for this script I've got 62 events. I can see here I've got 62 events loaded. We're going to send this to the modules. We're going to hit script upload. It's loading 62 events here. I can see now on the remote I've got 62 events across 3 modules. Again, I could go through and check the script. I'm expecting rails 2 and 3 on ID 1, 2 and 3 on ID 2. I'm not expecting any events on ID 3. Then ID 4, I'm again expecting events on rails 2 and 3. So everything checks out with this matrix that we've put together. And now we can put this into ARM and play. And there's our second script and our second song playing. And I can see the cues firing on the rails, which may not be visible with the lights on here. It's playing on the remote here, it's playing on the modules. Our audio is playing. 28 seconds, 30 seconds. There's our last cues just played. So again, we can, either with the Android device or the remote, we can take this back into test. We're going to do the same thing. We are going to erase the script now that we're done with it. We are going to load, and you can, once we've erased it, we can see the script has been removed on the remote. Now we're going to load our third script. Again, we're going to the big game folder we created, and I'm going to big game script 3. Load this across all modules. Now it says here I've got 60 events loaded. Our big game script 3 has 60 events. I need to load the script 3 song. So we're going to go load music. Big game, song 3, Punky. I can see that's loaded up here. It says big game, song 3, Punky, MP3. Now we need to send this script. We're going to upload it to the remote and the modules. It's loading 60 events. We can see the progression of the load here on the screen. It's loaded all 60. Now again, we can go through and see that we have events on rail 4 on module 1, events on rail 4 on module 2, events on rails 1, 2, and 3 on module 3. This is the module that's only used in this script. And then on module 4, we've got events on rail 4. And again, that lines up with what we were expecting here on our script. All right, now we can go back to test mode. And again, we did this on the FTKontrol application. We can do this on the remote as well. A long hold here. I'll put this into ARM. We have everything armed. You can see the FTKontrol application is armed. Modules are all armed. We can put this into play. The application's gone into play as well. And our third audio file is playing. And I can see that the lights on module 3 connected to rails 1 and 2 are firing as well. We'll push this to pause and back to test. It's a quick example of how you can use the FTKontrol application and coordinate your scripts such that you can load multiple scripts and audio files at a single event with a single setup. I hope you found this helpful. There's other ways that this could be done. You could use timecode and have one long script and use different timecode tracks to fire events at different times across that script. You also could simplify the setup. If you had more modules, you could use unique modules for each one of the scripts. In this case, I tried to use unique rails across each one of the scripts. There's no right or wrong way. It's just making sure you keep track of all of that. If you have additional thoughts or suggestions on how this could be accomplished, please leave them in the comments.